All right, we're talking COTA in this episode, not only for the Cup Series, but for the Xfinity and Truck Series as well. Been busy this weekend, just haven't been able to get my videos out midweek like I normally want to. I normally like them out on Wednesday, that's just how it was here. And figured I would just do one video covering all three series, just because I think it makes more time sense for you guys to listen to. Also, a very quick sidestep. Unless time constraint is the issue for you, if you're 150 max or whatever the case may be, I really don't understand people only playing the Cup Series. Like, if you're anywhere somewhat competent in the Cup Series in terms of how you build lines and stuff, you should be playing Xfinity and Truck Series. It's usually a lot easier. Just saying, I don't understand why people don't. I mean, by all means, don't drop down if you're not doing it. Like, I want less competition, but it just makes no sense. When we look at COTA this weekend in the Truck Xfinity Cup Series, clearly, yes, I mean, the big thing is, like, okay, we don't have stage cautions. I think that is a very small portion of, like, if you're barely just focusing on that right now, we're kind of already behind. We need to look at, well, first off, the fact that we have much less laps. Okay, for the Truck Series, it's 42. For the Xfinity Series, it's 48 laps. For the Cup Series, it's 68 laps. So we have a gigantic amount of fast laps led being taken away from us that just aren't on the board, just because these races don't have a lot of laps to begin with. The reason why I said, like, if we're really primarily just focusing on the fact that we don't have stage cautions here, I mean, everybody's kind of with that. I would much rather talk lineup construction and lineup strategies and things like that entering this weekend versus not. Let's start with the Cup Series first, because that's the big kahuna everybody cares and wants to listen to about that stuff. Now, very quickly, yes, Friday, we have practice for all three series. Qualifying is for Xfinity and Cup Series, or for the Xfinity and Truck Series, so we'll have that before Saturday's races. But when we look at the NASCAR Cup Series contest, race, everything regarding the Cup Series this weekend, I see a situation to where, as I mentioned at exiting Phoenix, a lot of the changes that NASCAR is bringing to this car in terms of what they can do in terms of passing, in terms of being competitive, things like that, I didn't see it. I think the wool was pulled over our eyes, and it's the issue with the next-gen platform in general. I don't think we're going to be able to fix that unless we completely just abandon this car. And what I mean by that is, I truly don't believe we're going to see much passing. I really don't. That's just how I look at it. Okay? Now, yes, if somebody runs off the track, gets stuck in the gravel, we're going to have a caution. If there's debris on the track, we're going to have a caution. But for the most part, I find it hard to believe that we're going to run into a severe car contact situation to where, like, an accident on the track brings out a yellow. I think it's going to be somebody running out of power, maybe blowing a tire, like I said, putting debris all over the track. But in terms of people wrecking each other and getting stupid, the fact that we don't have 2 guaranteed cautions right off the bat eliminates 2 guaranteed restarts right off the bat, okay? Because that's usually when they get the most crazy. We've seen the most amount of contact and incidents, people getting spun around, is right in the left-hander turn 1 as they start going down the hill. And I don't believe that we're going to see as much carnage there. Another thing that I'm looking at is guys just being fast. Like, look, the top 12 guys in terms of driver talent, in terms of where they're most likely going to start, in terms of people in practice, like, a lot of these guys are pretty even. That's just, like, I like Kyle Larson entering this weekend the most, but if you want to argue Cindric, Chastain, AJ Allmendinger, Joey Logano, Keselowski, Michael McDowell, Eric Jones, Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin, whoever you want to argue, Suarez, throw them in there, like, yes, all these guys are going to be good. Like, there's not one driver that I see instantly right now that I don't want to play. Okay, and I understand a lot of people don't like that. We're the picks. I mean, I think we just got to cover, the names and just go off of where these guys are starting. The fact that I think they can hold on to their positions. One thing that we saw, particularly this year at Phoenix, was the amount of bad drivers and bad teams being able to hold on to positions here. We played this song and dance before, to where we've had McDowell run top 10 all day, projected to do jack shit, and still running up there. I would like, so if we're in a situation this weekend in COTA to where we have some ugly drivers, some guys that, we might not see getting to 5X, even like a 4.8 value, 4.7 value starting inside top 15, like, I am actively going to make it a priority to get those guys in my lines. Or if I'm like last driver in versus the clear value play starting 29th, or the guy who is nobody's going to play starting ninth, I will probably lean to the guy starting ninth. That's just how I'm looking at it. I don't believe we're going to see a lot of passing. Yes, clearly we're going to have clear chalk, place differential plays in the back. If they work, if they don't work, I think the fact that we have lost these stage yellows, okay, which is, yet again, 2 guaranteed restarts for people to gain positions on the field, specifically if they're a good team, like if it's Suarez starting dead last, if it's Bubba Wallace starting dead last, if it's Chris Buescher, Denny Hamlin, like if it's any good driver starting in the back of the field, yeah, we're most likely to be able to easily project them to pass 10, 15 cars. But if we lose those restarts, we can see that it limits the amount of upside that they have in terms of passing people. That's just the situation we're in. Okay? Is there anybody in the Cup Series that I just want to stay off of, that I don't necessarily want to play? At this point, probably Connor Daly. That's kind of where I'm at there. You could argue Jensen, depending on what he shows. If we look in general, we've seen clear improvement in the backmarker teams in terms of speed that they're bringing to the track, in terms of them being able to actually stay, 1 lap down, 2 laps down at most circuits, at most tracks, So I've already had some questions based on, Josh Bilicki, Cody Ware, things like that. Look, if we see anything out of the ordinary, or anything that would obviously point us to them, I'm not going to X them out. I'm not going to lean one way or the other. But clearly, I would just rather see what these people bring. We do got to remember at practice, we're only probably going to get maybe 4 laps of actual data, just through the practice groups and stuff this weekend. So just keep that in mind there. But I think we'll be able to see a lot just based off of that, in my opinion, to be honest with you. Is the guy who's fastest in practice going to win the race? Probably not. But the way that I look at it is we can break it down to top 7s. If you got a top 7 speed in most parameters that you're using to look at practice data, we most likely got somewhat of a top 7 car at some point. I'll be pretty lenient on practice data here, but if you're running lap times in the 30s, dude, I'm not going to expect you to fly through this field. Specifically in situations where I think it's going to limit chaos, it's going to limit how stupid people get. If you look back at the previous races at COTA, yeah, sure, one was in the rain, but what happened in that race? They spread out. If you look back at last year, what happens in that race? They spread out. Yes, we get yellows late in the race, and we get, Chastain, moving people out of the race and stuff. But look, I don't think we're gonna have a green white checkered in this race, or in any of these races, to be honest with you. Now, we could very easily can get there, but the fact that I don't think we necessarily have to worry about that. COTA, with how many laps it is, it's not easy, but the lack of stage yellows or predetermined yellows is, in my opinion, not going to let people who shouldn't be up in the front be up front. If we look back at Sonoma last year, I understand we're at COTA right now, but I like looking at Sonoma for instances of where people are going to be, specifically on tight winding racetracks. We can argue Indy as well, but Indy tends to get crazy. You typically need to look at stage 1 or stage 2 in that race. But if you look at Sonoma last year, who had the fastest car? Nobody could pass him. But Brandon, this isn't the same car. I honestly believe it is. That's just how it is. Yes, we're making slight, aero changes, downforce changes and stuff, but for the most part, it's going to drive pretty similar. Yes, at Phoenix, we saw guys having to wheel it more, but it was the same song and dance. Okay, so when we look at Larson last year at Sonoma, fastest car, nobody could even catch up to him. The guy was in a different zip code. The guy is literally in wine country, and these guys are at the racetrack. He wasn't even in the same county, man. It was insane. He pits to get, or he stays out to get stage points because they want to prioritize stage points over the win, whatever. He gets buried in the field, can't pass, can't get through the field. Absolutely can't get through the field. Suarez gets the lead. Buescher moves up. Michael McDowell, yet again, works his way in the top 10 just due to the strategy in that situation and stays up there. Why am I bringing that up? As I said, I don't think we're going to see much passing in this race. Look, being honest, outside of the first 4 turns, you're pretty much single file. I mean, and you could argue even less than that, because once you're going through the S's, you're already single file. You are... if you're the leader, if you're the top 4, you're most likely single file. The pack's still going to be side by side through that. But in terms of holding your position in the top 5, holding your position in the top 10, all that's pretty much decided out of the S's, okay? I'm not expecting any weather this weekend. So when we look at, the Cup Series, like I really hate to be like, I don't really like anybody or I don't really hate anybody, but that's really how I'm going to be. I'm really working on trying to not have predetermined, super, super duper favorites entering this weekend. As I said, Larson is my favorite looking at everything. But look, I could very easily see myself playing Kevin Harvick, Austin Dillon. The entire field, I could see myself playing them. Like, I understand that's not very helpful, but I think it's purely based on holding your track position based on where you qualify. That's just where it is. Yes, some place differential is going to be nice, and I'm going to be honest, I think a lot of situations, I think 5 place differential points is probably going to get it done. If you're starting 26, I think if you can finish 21st, 20th, that might be enough. Certainly if you're starting 11th and you finish 8th, I think that's going to be enough. I think this is going to be an incredibly tight scoring event, and I want to approach it in a way that I really haven't before, and that's just playing more guys starting up front and really limiting my exposure to place differential in the back. I know it's very tempting. I know we've seen that quite a lot of times, specifically at road courses and specifically at COTA. We've seen, these last couple of years, it's been the Joe Gibbs cars in the back, but I don't necessarily want to completely worry about that or, really live and die unless it's just a clear and obvious place differential play. That's just kind of where I'm at there. I do think Jordan Taylor is a very interesting play in the number 9 car. I think this has a lot more in common with what these guys are used to running there, and I don't think Taylor is going to be anywhere near as non-competitive as we might initially think he will be. The fact that, is he even added yet? So he's $7,500. I mean, he's very easy to work in the lineups, but pricing really doesn't matter. We got a pretty, even AJ at 9.7, not the most expensive. I don't really know why. At least I know he's 5th most expensive, but I figured he'd at least be top 3. I don't know. I feel like I'm just kind of rambling for the Cup Series, but that's really all it comes down to. We'll talk more about Xfinity and Truck here, but for the Cup Series, for me, in my opinion, very wide open. I do want to take in what they're bringing off the hauler, but I think people are going to really maintain their positions. And if you've approached that way at Phoenix, you were ahead of the curve. And when we look back, outside of the end of races getting incredibly stupid with people just wrecking people and getting crazy, which can happen in any race, I think people just hold on to positions for the most part. And specifically, guys starting top 10, with people not short pitting, that's going to really, in my opinion, be your running order. So that's just kind of how I want to approach that one. Let's go ahead and look at let's do the Truck Series first. This is probably the more entertaining one. And I know I just went over the fact that, I don't think we're really passing the Cup Series and things like that. Yeah, it doesn't apply to the Truck Series. Doesn't apply to Xfinity nearly as heavy as that. Just because Xfinity, you could argue that more people are even. We're kind of landlocked in the Cup Series. Xfinity, there's a lot of driver-dependent situations that'll either elevate or lower a team. In the Truck Series, you can't fake speed. I mean, we're going to say that with COTA in general. But you just can't fake speed, and you can't fake these trucks. We're gonna have the slowest ones going home, but for the most part, if you're starting in the rear of the pack, if you're gonna be slow, you're gonna be slow. That's just how it's gonna be. There's clear favorites in this race. The fact that Casgrella is actually gonna be supported in a pretty decent car or in a pretty decent truck is fantastic to see. If you remember, he was chalk, very similar to that place differential kind of talk I just had with the Truck Series. Casgrella was chalk last year, or the year before, and was going to work, and then was punted off mid-pack into a sand trap, and a yellow came out, and things like that. But Casgrella and Tricon Machine, I absolutely love him. I'm entering this week, Casgrella, Nick Sanchez, whatever you want to do, whatever situation you want to bring people in at, or whatever accent you want to bring in, or dialect, whatever the case may be. Hold on, I gotta sneeze. So those guys, Gralla, Sanchez, Nick Garcia, or Jake Garcia, my bad. They're clearly going to be in play. I think these guys are mispriced. Kligerman, Kyle Busch, Alex Bowman, and Zane Smith are going to be your front runners. Those three up there, I think you'd have to pick between one of those guys. The fact that this race has no laps in it, you're going to need the guy who leads the vast majority of this. And secondly, real fast, did you guys notice at Atlanta, I know I'm kind of all over the place, did you notice at Atlanta, Chevy didn't put a gun to their head and kill themselves out of being in contention for the race in terms of strategy? When we look at the duels, when we look at the 500, when we look at Chevy and their dumb fuel strategy calls anyway, the fact that it seemed to me that everybody was so afraid of how pit road would work out, the Chevy didn't try and like big brain themselves into an issue. They just stayed out until they had to pit. Was fantastic. The fact that in all these series, people should just either race this race backwards and pit as soon as you're in your window, maybe 1 or 2 laps extra for green flag pit stops, or just run. Like the fact that you just really need to pit once or twice, depending on what series you're in. I trust, the reason I'm bringing that up is I trust Tricon, I certainly trust Kyle Busch Motorsports, and I trust Front Row to be making the correct choices there. I don't think we're going to have anybody really shoot themselves based on strategy. But yeah, like Kyle Busch, Zane Smith, Alex Bowman, probably going to be your favorites. Probably going to be running 1, 2, and 3. We could throw Corey Hyman there. We could throw Eckes in there. We could throw, Ben Rhodes, even Ty Majeski in that. But I believe they're going to be choosing between one of those guys and then just filling your lineups out with a lot of the 9 and 8K remaining drivers is how I'm going to want to build lines. Like that's really how I'm wanting to approach it. Like even Taylor Gray, I think Daniel Dye can be interesting there. Dean Thompson, we'll see what he does in this 5 machine. But in the grand scheme of things, I really cutting it off. Give me a top 20 running position DI for this series, and that's going to be it. Let's just say, for example, like a build that I've kind of already messed with or like looked at in general of how I want to approach it. You go Kyle Busch, and then just absolutely fall in love with the 7K guys. We got DiBenedetto at 8.9 or at 7.8. We got Nick at 8,000. We got Infigure at 8.2. Casgrella at 8.3. Like, you could easily go to those guys, fit whoever you want to trust in the back of the field. I like Colin Garrett at a value play at $5,500 in the on-point machine. Going to be a competitive car. He's a competitive driver. He knows what he's doing. I'm perfectly fine with that. I will say that I am probably not going to go too quarterly to Samuel. Probably even not to Mason. We'll see. But a lot of these value play drivers in the Truck Series are pretty ugly plays. In a sense of, I don't realistically see these guys being able to propel these cars up through the field and really take advantage of a lot of these guys back here. Like a lot of the 5K range, in my opinion, just kind of dead. I don't really want to dip down in there. Timmy Hill, gonna be solid in a situation like $5,800. Can he finish this race? Yeah, he's gonna take care of the car. Yes, like I would personally kind of cap my value interest or building lineups in the Truck Series, like dipping down the 5K range. I would be very hesitant to do that, and I would mainly want to stay in the mid to 5 to 6K range. That's just kind of where I'm at. Like even Caden Honey in the 04 machine at $6,000, fantastic. You don't have to dip down to the 5K range in this race. I just don't believe it. I think there's a lot of fantastic 8K plays and a lot of fantastic 7K plays, and that's really how I'm going to want to be building my line. I love, like even these guys, Majeski at 8.9, I love it. Christian Eckes 8.7, I love it. Honestly, Chase Purdy at 7.7, I like it. I don't hate these plays. I really, really don't. And that's really how I want to approach it. I just don't want to play the slow guys in the Truck Series race. This race is going to get spread out. And I would imagine we're going to see quite a lot of DNFs here. Not due to wrecks, maybe not even DNFs, but a lot of guys that are just not playable. They're going to be so slow. They don't have the stage yellows to save them. Now, yes, as I said, we're probably going to have yellows for somebody stalling on the track, somebody getting into a sand trap or whatever. But the fact that we don't have guaranteed stage yellows very quickly for the Truck Series to help people maintain a lead lap running position and to help give them a chance to pass people on these restarts, it really severely limits the amount of plays that we have for the truck series in the value range, just because these trucks are going to be slow. They seem to be going to be slow. So that's really my approach there. I mean, Logan in the AM machine, I mean, $4,800. He might be my only interest. Him and Colin at 55 and Logan at 48. Depending on what that truck shows, depending on what either of these trucks show in the practice speed, which, as I said, we're going to have very limited laps in practice. But those would be the only guys I'm pretty much interested in the 5K range, because I was looking through and trying to argue situations where you might take a 10 and 9K driver and you do need a 5K guy or somebody out there. Logan at 48, about the only guy there. But that's really about it, and that's mainly due to the pricing, or not pricing. That's mainly due to the equipment that Logan's going to have. $4,800. Basically, would you pay $4,800 for Austin Wayne Self? Yeah. Would you pay $4,800 for somebody who's slightly slower than Austin Wayne Self? Yeah, I totally do that. So that's the reasoning there. But the truck series is probably the more interesting slate yet again. And there's only 4,700 people in this truck series contest. Like, are you kidding me? Like, just attack the Truck Series contest. Have fun with that one. Have fun with the Xfinity Series. Like, honestly, play less fucking Cup Series stuff, man. It's weekends like this to where the Truck and Xfinity are way more fun, way more viable, and I think you would have you'd have a better ROI playing Truck and Xfinity than you would Cup Series. That's just me, especially with how. Let's kind of go back in the situation. I've been talking with a few people in the Discord, out of the chats, based on how more people are playing NASCAR Cup Series now, and how specifically their advantage at the road courses. I know, as I said, I'm kind of all over the place, but I just, it's COTA. I think it's very dependent on where people qualify. Can you hold their position? Things like that. But we have a lot of big money 150 guys playing NASCAR now, and you might be like, what's the difference? What's the difference between that and now? Well, look. It really is a case, like, if Whistles Go Woo, and I know I'm using his name, and that's not just because I'm not trying to name drop him, but we are seeing an increase of big names who typically only play MLB, only play NFL, and who are really good at that, bringing their approach to NASCAR. And a road course, in my opinion, is a situation where, and I'll use Whistle Go Woo as the example here, based on their approaches, kind of being somewhat, and this is an insult, being somewhat chalky, in a sense of, like, clearly finding people who they want to be underweight on. If you look back at their lineups for Auto Club in Phoenix, yes, they found, in Las Vegas, they found like 2 or 3 guys that they want to be overweight on, and then they just kind of eat the chalk past that. Like, for example, at Auto Club, they had quite a lot of Reddick, Priest. I'm trying to think. I'm pretty sure it was Briscoe as well. But if Reddick doesn't wreck out, a lot of 150 guys have a fantastic week at Auto Club. The reason I'm bringing that into practice here is because if you're 150 maxing and you got some good stuff going into those lineups, a road course that has very limited fast laps and laps led, so the variable of who's going to get fast laps led are very limited. Basically just going to the lap leader in this race. They're going to cover a lot of combinations and a lot of good lineups. And this is where and especially if things don't get stupid, I believe we're going to have some 150 guys win on Sunday in the COTA race for the Cup Series. I really do. I think road courses lean really heavily into guys who know what they're doing, clearly, in terms of 150 max entry guys. So I would honestly not be so shocked to see, Whistles Go Woo and some of these guys up top on Sunday, which is yet again why I would implore you, hey, check it, play some of the Truck Series, play some Xfinity Series, man. This is a rough one for Cup that I'm honestly, and that's kind of why my approach for Cup Series is I just kind of want to play guys up front and hope they can hold up there to try and avoid a lot of the builds that are going to be chasing someplace differential back. Anyway, that's kind of my side note there. Let's go ahead and look at Xfinity right here. The Xfinity Series is probably the most wide open of all the 3 races this weekend, and not an instance of the Cup Series is wide open because I'm open to playing anybody, based on where they start. Xfinity Series, I can honestly see a lot of different drivers competing for the win in a lot of different situations. Not just depending on where they start, but you can have guys who start 18th, 17th, 16th, honestly compete for a top 8 at some point in this race based on what team they have, based on the strategy that they have, based on a lot of different factors. So Xfinity is honestly probably my more interesting race this weekend. I mean, look, clearly AJ is the favorite. That's just how it is. But you got William Byron, you got Ty Gibbs, you got Austin Hill, Nemechek. These guys are all going to be up there. I mean, clearly, duh, Brandon. But even Allgaier, Sheldon Creed, we could argue Sammy Smith. We could argue a lot of different situations here. Not just for the pole sitter, but guys running top 5 all day, different strategies. This is a situation where your team is going to dictate who wins this race. And I think that means it is a direct competition between Colleague and Hendrick and JGR with what they want to do with William Byron, AJ, and Ty Gibbs. Who short pits who? Who pits first of those 3 drivers? I think that's the situation. Because if they're all pitting the same, AJ's just won this bitch. If they are trying to short pit AJ, I would honestly believe whoever short pits AJ first has the highest chance of beating him. And that's if we don't have yellows. A lot of things can happen here. But in terms of winning, I see it either being AJ, Byron, or Ty Gibbs. If it's AJ, he's long gone. He's left the field. If it's Byron and Gibbs, they are winning this on strategy. It is. I would argue probably Gibbs more on strategy. Byron, I could see him going toe-to-toe with AJ, with the Hendrick back, 17 machine for William Byron. But for the win, it's probably one of those 3 guys. For everybody else in this field, for everybody else in this, my God, it is wide open. I have no real lean on drivers. Clearly, in the sense of I don't really hate anybody right now. Clearly, I'm not going to be playing the 74 machine with Link. I can't even pronounce his name, dude. I know I'm Hispanic, but good Lord. Mon. I'm just going to say Mon because it's a Leguizamon. I'm going to say Mon. Hopefully, I pray to God he doesn't even qualify for this stupid-ass race because he's in the 74 machine. Yet again, is Ryan Vargas doing okay? I know he raced Atlanta, but man, this is practically April, and he's only made 1 race this year. Poor guy there. Real quick, I want to add, yes, look, there's something fishy going on with Josh Williams. We got to say it. I'm not trying to ruin anything here, which, by all means, go buy his shirt. I support what Josh Williams did. I've never seen NASCAR be this nice to somebody who told them to go fuck themselves. Have you ever seen this before? Josh Williams absolutely put the middle finger to NASCAR. Everybody has been supportive of Josh Williams, but I have never seen NASCAR be the butt of a joke this well. They suspended Josh Williams. No monetary fine. No points penalty. He just doesn't race this week. There's no way Williams gets off this easy. I've never seen NASCAR be okay with this. In a situation like this, being the butt of the joke. Williams has been on everything. The Propaganda Network on SiriusXM, NASCAR Race Hub, podcasts, and he's like basically F you NASCAR. I didn't like the call, and a lot of people are like, yeah, you're right, NASCAR has been messing up. Yeah, I wish I could have done this. I'm honestly worried that DGM is going to start having a lot of speeding penalties on pit lane, okay? I know they didn't find Josh Williams and they did not find DGM, but man, I think this is going to have ripple effects for that 92 car and that 91 car. And I know LeBay's in the car this weekend. I would not be shocked to see LeBay randomly speeding, entering or exiting pit lane this weekend. I would not be shocked to see Bilicki, run into, jump in the restart zone or something stupid like that. If we start seeing rules coming out of nowhere for DGM, I think that's what it is, because I've never ever seen NASCAR roll over and take it like they're taking it with Josh Williams. That's worrying, to be honest with you. That's very concerning. Like if this was a local racetrack, which in a lot of instances NASCAR, you're telling me NASCAR went after Denny Hamlin and Ross Chastain due to what he said on a podcast, but they're just gonna let Josh Williams go with the suspension and nothing else? They could have buried Josh Williams. They buried Carl Long, and Josh Williams just gonna get away with this? What? It was literally a situation where Josh Williams doesn't have the money to pay a fine, so they're not going to fine him. No, they're going to fine him in some form or fashion. They're going to fuck that team over in some form or fashion. I would not be shocked to see, these DGM cars start being called to the R&D center and just taken apart and given back on an open flatbed. They're going to make life fucking hell for DGM. That's just how I see it, to be honest with you. And I'm honestly concerned about that. I'm concerned about that. Like, logically speaking, that it doesn't make sense on how NASCAR's just letting this be water over the back. That's wild. Anyway, in terms of the cars who are going to perform well, I don't see Parker Chase really doing anything. I don't see Brad Perez doing anything in this situation. However, I can realistically see, Parker in the Jordan Anderson machine doing something. I wouldn't be shocked to see that. Ryan Sieg, Joe Graff Jr. in the RSS 38 machine. That's going to be a way better car than what he's normally driving. Eric Almirola. Not going to compete for a win, but got to be there. Who's in the other Green Light Racing machine? Because they just fired. Oh, it's Hocevar. Because they just fired Perkins, or ended their relationship or whatever the case may be. SS Greenlight. Both those cars are in. Both those guys are certainly in contention. The fact that we get Hocevar at $5,300, I'm not a big man. I'm not a big fan of the Hat Man. Is he still the Hat Man? But $5,300 for Hocevar? Yes, please. What are we doing here? Lawrence in the 66 machine, Cameron Lawrence in the 66. I like him. He has talent. Hello, we're getting Lawrence at $5,600. We're getting Bilicki at $5,700. So you gotta get him DGM. Trust me, dude. I tell you what, I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna be so pissed, man. Bilicki's gonna be running 17th, going in for green flag pit stop, removing equipment. They're gonna be like, hey, he was in too many pit boxes. He was speeding in pit lane. Something's gonna happen. I am honestly worried about that. Preston Pardus, it seems that Pardus is coming back with their own entry this time. If you remember back when Pardus did that several years ago at Mid-Ohio, that was a disaster. With Preston Pardus and his dad putting up one of these. I want to look at this car really fast and look more into it. But if I would like to see, let me see, hold on, I gotta pause this. Yeah, Pardus is with their own entry. I'm assuming that it's a DGM chassis that he probably purchased off of, from Mario Goslin a while back, and have probably been working on it. But man, I'm telling, the last time the Pardus family did this, and Pardus Racing did this, it was a fucking disaster. So I'm very hesitant on playing Preston Pardus this weekend because like I said, last time I did this, it was a fucking disaster. So that's a long time. That's at least 4 or 5 years ago, but still, same issues can happen if you're running your own entry. Clearly, he has to qualify in on speed, but man, I'm very concerned with Preston Pardus. I like Kligerman. Let's see. Let me go over the guys that I actually like. I think Austin Hill is a very interesting play. I really want to play Brett Moffitt. Just as I said, we just have to keep playing Brett Moffitt, I guess. It's going to be one of those years to where until they bring his pricing up, him at $74 is a pretty awesome play. Miguel Paludo, man, I think I played him in every fucking race that DraftKings has had. I don't think he's ever worked out. So I will probably be underweight on Miguel Paluto just because I've paid enough rake playing Miguel Paluto before. Alpha Beta Prime boys, Sage Karam and Earnhardt are having to switch cars this weekend just due to the fact that they don't think they think that Earnhardt will be at risk of not making the field based on qualifying. If Earnhardt's starting last, I'm not playing Jeff or Earnhardt. Although Sage Karam, Ryan Ellis, if they can show us anything in qualifying and practice, sure, why not? But I don't really see anything out of nowhere. I like Kaz Grala doing double duty, going to have the experience of the Truck Series, going to have the experience of both practice sessions. Probably going to be the most experienced guy this weekend on this track, certainly in this race, based on just what he's been able to do. I like Kaz Grala in this race. Nemechek probably going to run 6th, 7th, 4th all day. Junior Motorsports, if any of these guys show us like tremendous speed out of the gate in practice and can back it up in qualifying, then I would end up leaning to them. But as I said, I think it very much is a situation where AJ, Byron, and Gibbs are your primary potential lap leaders, and we're mainly just building guys to try and fit one of, if not two of those guys in, and mainly trying to round out your lineup with as many top 15, top 20 guys as possible. At least the pricing is pretty soft this week. But like I said, I like AJ. Let's just say, I mean, even in the value range, let me just check right fast. I am probably not using Smithley, Ellis, Brennan Poole, Kyle Sieg, Hocevar are probably the primary value guys that I'm going to end up getting to down there if I need to get there. But like, for example, AJ, Hocevar, Brett Moffitt, leaves you $800-900 on the table. I mean, that's really how I kind of want to build, because then I can get to Kaz Grala, I can get to Herbst, to Emmerich, Kligerman, Chandler Smith, Sammy Smith, Sam Mayer, Josh Berry, Sheldon Creed, all guys are like AJ, Hocevar, Moffitt. Play whoever you want after that in the 8 and 9K ranges. Like, that's how I want to approach it. Probably just one 5K guy, and then just primarily leaning on the 8 and 9K ranges. That's how I envision I'm going to be building lineups for the Xfinity Series this week. So that's really about it. I'll be live Saturday morning talking Track Xfinity. Feel free to ask me any other questions. If you want like in-depth, lap by lap stuff, I can go over that. I still have that stuff, but in the grand scheme of things, the fact that we're removing stage yellows, the fact that we are increasing the likelihood of these races going green, severely limits, in my opinion, a lot of people who can work out. Yes, as I said, we can get a green-white checker race to end all three of these races this weekend, but outside of that, it's going to be based on what car you have in terms of speed and the running order, and I don't believe that that's going to be changing a lot. Like, if you qualify up front, you're going to probably have a car that's going to run up front all day, and that's really going to be it for these series. So I will see you guys in the live shows post-practice. I might even do a live show on Friday evening if there's enough interest for it, going over the practice data and stuff, so keep me updated on that if you guys want that. But until then, I will see you guys in the live show on Saturday.